welcome to New Game Plus. I'm Tim. I'm joined by Donald. How are you?
I think my world has been completely upended because of major Hearthstone news that has come by recently. Turns out that they are going to introduce formats into the game now, aren't they, Tim?
Yeah, it makes sense. It moves it closer to what Magic and other card games, where they have a standard format and then they have, well, Hearthstone is calling it the wild format, which is a bit of an odd name, but that's when you have all your crazy, wacky Nax Romanascus cards and all that sort.
It's just every card ever. It's the equivalent of the Magic Legacy, but standard it pretty much just has a rolling rotation of cards released in the previous year, as well as the classic and basic cards. So rest in peace, Dr. Boom.
Yes.
You will not be missed.
But there's still Reno, which is very, very unfortunate. Hopefully it gets balanced. More balance. Demand it.
I don't know, personally, maybe because I'm still playing at scrub levels, but I haven't run into Reno that much. I think the biggest blight that I will be glad to see the back of is Shielded Minibots and Sludge Belcher. Oh my god, so many of my games was ruined by Sludge Belcher.
Yes, thankfully all those are gone. We've still got all the classic cards and the basic cards as well, so we'll see how the new standard format rolls around and see if it brings a bit more balance and fun to the standard format.
It'll allow them to essentially experiment with new cards, with new mechanics, without the fear of just creating a completely broken mechanic and then having to nerf a series of cards after the fact. So it can only be healthy for the game's meta.
Yes, and also gets people to buy new cards.
That too.
Yes.
It'll work on me.
This week, we do have a couple of games. We've got some serious business happening.
Yes, we speak to an IP lawyer about the recent Fine Bros trademark takedown, or their attempted trademark anyway. We also explore the world of virtual reality in a brand new news segment for 2016.
Yes, we also have a look at Mario and Luigi Paper Jam on the 3DS.
Yep, but first we look at Resident Evil 0.
Now, I remember the first release of Resident Evil 0 when it was just called 0. It wasn't HD Remaster, the third Electric Boogaloo.
Zero sugar, but the same great taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And so, and I think the big thing that Zero had going for it, against it, I should say, in those days was the fact that it followed up the remake of Resident Evil, the original.
A very tough, hard act to follow.
Yeah, which was a very good remake, and then it followed up, after that came Resident Evil 4.
Yep.
So it was kind of like the jam. No one wanted the jam.
It is definitely the black sheep of the series before 6, but that's another kettle of fish. But with Resident Evil 0, it was a tough act to follow after the remake, and I mean, there were a few things that kind of turned off a few players, namely the partner system, which was a gimmick of the entire series where you control two characters, not at the same time, but kind of alternate.
Yeah, but I mean, that was always, so I guess that's the question. With the remake and a HD remaster, is it just they've spiffed it up, or have they actually, made it more engaging? Have they fixed gameplay?
There are a few changes, so let's go with that, because we all know how Resident Evil is. You've had 14 years to play it. Check out our review 14 years ago. But anyway, with Resident Evil 0 HD Remaster, the visuals have been tuned up so well, just like the remake. Everything is in glorious 1080p, running at 60 frames per second. This is my first Resident Evil experience running 60 frames, so it was a sight to behold. The animations do look a little bit janky, but for 14 years, tuning it up, it's eventually, something's got to give. It's going to happen.
And also, the right stick is used to control your partner, which...
Yep. There's a lot of situations where you're actually using certain characters simultaneously to switch buttons at the same time. With using the right stick to control a second character, it alleviates a lot of the partner problems that the game has.
Because that was such a pain. So I guess in that sense, does it actually take its place as a must-play in the Resident Evil lexicon, or is it still just the jam?
You also get to play as Resident Evil 5 level Albert Wesker, where mercenary style just completely decimate everyone. Right. So there's a little extra content to be had, but if you missed Resident Evil 0 the first time around, this is probably the definitive version. Looks great, sounds great, and all around pretty solid. Okay, so when it all comes down to it, we have two video games on the 3DS. That is the Mystery Dungeon series, as well as the Etrian Odyssey series. You mix them together, and you get yourself Etrian Mystery Dungeon. Now tell me, Charlotte, is it truly a match made in heaven?
It is. I'm actually a huge fan of both Mystery Dungeon and the Etrian Odyssey series, so when I heard they were coming together, I was so excited. And this game is actually really good. So it takes the Mystery Dungeon crawling and throws an Etrian Odyssey skin on it. So you've got Etrian Odyssey characters, music, aesthetics, you've got the skill system, you've got the same classes.
So when it all comes down to it, there's a lot of games that have had that kind of Etrian Odyssey / kind of mix-up thing going on, where they mash mechanics together, most notably Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth. Now, is it now becoming typecast, or is it does it incorporate a few things to make it feel a bit fresh and a bit new?
I think it does incorporate a few things to make it feel a bit fresh. Yeah, so this game is on the 3DS. It's definitely a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, especially there was so many dungeons to explore, and they had so many different environments, and all the characters that showed up all made it pretty nice as well.
So when it all comes down to it as well, I mean, both these games are very heavily dependent on procedurally generated environments. Are there a few things that carry over, including FOEs and things like that?
Yeah, there's FOEs, and they work a bit differently. They'll basically work up through the dungeon, and if they get all the way to the end of the dungeon, they'll destroy the town, and that's not very good. There are things you can do to stop them. You can throw forts down. You can to halt their progress, or you can just go out and destroy them if you want to.
Sounds pretty good.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, when it all comes down to it, there is some choice involved as well, and you can choose to engage stronger enemies as well as weaker ones. You can kind of pick and choose your battles. With the mystery dungeon, it seems that you're constantly chased by enemies.
Well, actually, because you can throw down the fort, they'll run into the fort and then run away. But yeah, it's really good. There's lots of customization, and it's just a really long game. There's like the post game will double or triple the amount of game you played. So this is definitely, if you think this game looks like it'd be good for you, you should definitely pick it up because it is excellent.
Highly recommended for Mystery Dungeon fans and Etrian fans?
Yes, especially Mystery Dungeon fans that give them a bit of a taste of the Etrian Odyssey.
Nice. Go pick it up, guys.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Whoa! 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 Oh boy! I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I was busy experiencing the thrills and spills of virtual reality. Now, it may look like that I'm wearing a sleeping mask with the words New Game Plus VR headset on it, and you'll be correct, because VR is not cheap, and we at New Game Plus run on a very tight budget. Although I did manage to splurge and put Adrian Brody here onto the back of my sleeping mask, just to give myself that extra bit of thrill. Now, over the summer break, we discovered that the Oculus Rift Consumer Edition will cost $599 US, which is enough to fund maybe 10, 12 seasons of New Game Plus. Throw into that the high-end PC required to run the Oculus Rift at its minimum specs, and you're talking Vasily's garden money here. And he doesn't come cheap. I heard he has like 5 life-size Venus flytraps as a security detail, and he insists on growing them all organically. It's not a cheap process. Now, I know it isn't easy to justify this sort of high cutting-edge expense, especially after the hodgepodge that was motion controls. You may recognize the PlayStation Move and the Xbox Kinect as those piles of dust currently sitting beneath your TV. Now sure, we all loved Wii Tennis, but these devices, they just didn't have the technical fidelity to meet their promise. And besides, there weren't really much games for them. Indeed, you and I, our probably most highly memorable gaming experience on the Kinect was just getting the damn thing to recognize us. Xbox, go to Netflix. No, I said go to Netflix. No, don't call Will on Skype. He's such an asshole. I don't want to go. Hi, Will. How's it going? It's good to hear. The wife really loves the pancake recipe. Thanks for letting me borrow the loan. I have to go. Okay, I'm just in the middle of filming. Okay, bye. What an asshole. However, compared to motion controls, virtual reality has had a bit of a head start. Ever since the invention of the lawnmower back in 1992, various companies have dabbled in consumer VR, from the Nintendo Virtual Boy to the Sega VR to the various arcade rigs that littered your arcades in the mid-90s. Now, you would have been able to tell these arcade rigs by their little helmets and the buckets of used sick that surrounded them, caused by frequent motion sickness. But what's the difference though between the 90s and today? Well, aside from a lack of POGs and good Simpsons episodes on TV, the motion control technology of today has mostly gotten rid of the motion sickness problem. And on top of that, these headsets are designed to so deeply immerse the player that they achieve this sense of presence. This idea that they forget that they're golf mouth opened wearing this VR headset in their bedroom, but indeed in a virtual world, that the world really is there, that their opponent's genitals really are lapping their foreheads gently. But what good is all this shiny technology if there are no games to play on it? Thankfully, developers have been playing with dev kits for a while now, and as a result, we're starting to see some really interesting experiments and experiences in VR. From daring space-simulated combat, to thrilling roller coaster rides, claustrophobic horror games, to exciting roller coaster games, to absolute states of calm and tranquility, before the drop on your virtual roller coaster simulator. Now, even if the games do dry up, there is one area where VR users can wet their beak. Oh my god, her tits. They're right there. They are really right there. That's right, porno. The adult entertainment industry has long been tossing around the idea of VR porn, and now they are ready to have their users just strap on their headset and start jacking it in. And all these companies are just hoping to achieve the deepest market I'm sorry, I appear to have run up my lifetime quota of VR porn jokes. It's a shame. It's a shame. I'm disappointed that I blew my load so early. Boom! Managed to sneak one in. Yeah! Now, but despite all of this, it is still hard to recommend buying a VR headset at this stage. For one, we don't know what the HTC Vive or the PlayStation VR will be like compared to the Oculus Rift. And besides, it's not generally the best idea to buy technology, shiny new ones, especially on day one. Please ignore the Apple Watch that I'm currently wearing. But having said that though, there's enough financial and creative backing here to ensure that VR at least has 5-10 years in its initial run. And as game developers begin to learn the language of VR gaming, I believe that there is the potential to have some truly unique and wonderful experiences in VR. Speaking of, if you'll excuse me for a minute, and that is everything that has happened in the world, ever.
Now, you've probably heard about the Fine brothers and their sudden fall from grace, shall we say. Basically, what they decided to do was they were going to try and trademark the React word as a kind of a brand name for what they did. So they were going to basically say that if you made a React video or you use the name React inside of your thing, they owned the copyright to that. And then, you know, they were kind enough to offer people the ability to allow themselves to make videos basically for them and then be allowed to use that copyright. So instead of us reacting, because, I mean, let's face it, from my point of view, it's just stupid, we figured we'd interview an IP lawyer and see what he had to say about it and discuss basically what trademark is and what these guys seem to be trying to do.
So trademark is a word or a logo or a slogan that differentiates one person or one trader's goods and services from someone else's. So it can be a word like Sony or Kellogg's or McCain, or it can be a logo like the Nike swoosh logo. And the purpose of a trademark is to differentiate goods and services of one person from their competitors. From what the Fine brothers have put out there onto YouTube and onto social media, what it looks like they're trying to do is create if you like, a franchise model where they say we've got a particular format in our videos and we've got a name that goes with those videos, and we're putting it out there for people to be able to take that format, license it, and produce similar content using the same format. And in exchange, the Fine brothers will take a cut of any revenue that those franchisees will make from those videos.
And I guess the other question that matters to us is what does it actually mean for Australian YouTubers and people in Australia that are making content, and particularly content that may be considered a reaction video?
Well, in terms of trademarks, now trademarks are regulated on a country-by-country basis. So just because someone's got a trademark in the US doesn't mean they can tell someone in Australia not to use that trademark in Australia. The complication is where an Australian content provider or content creator is using a platform such as YouTube, which is hosted in the US, then complications can arise because that can affect how an Australian content producer is able to use certain words or certain content in their enterprise, if you like. I think with these sorts of situations where the Fine brothers, for example, what they're really doing is pushing the envelope a bit, claiming a trademark over what are generic words, claiming copyright over a format, which may or may not be original. A wait and see approach is not a bad approach to take. There's always, of course, a risk that someone may get sued, that a content producer may get sued over this. But suing someone is a lot of effort, is a lot of money. There are much easier and cheaper ways for a content owner to deal with alleged infringers, and I think it will become very clear as time goes on what the Fine brothers and anyone similar in their position are intending to do with these claimed copyright and trademarks. I think it will become very clear whether they are intending to go after anyone producing a reaction video, or whether they are indeed just looking at a licensing and a franchise model.
As you can tell, we filmed that literally the day after the news broke about what they were doing, and they've already retracted what they were going to do. It was a terrible move. Sony tried to do it with Let's Play, and I mean, we all know the infamous story of how there was a guy who had the copyright for the word edge in video game titles, and so it took the might of EA to bring him down when they released Mirror's Edge, and they probably had a bigger legal team than everybody else. But Candy Crush, obviously Candy Crush Saga, King tried to license Saga, or trademark Saga, as their specific copyright. So that's the problem, is the overreach. People are defending them and saying that's not what they were intending to do. They were trying to get back at Alan, who, Alan had done a React video and not kind of collaborated with them. Even if that's true, all they were trying to do was cover their own revenue stream. They weren't trying to help the YouTube community at large. I mean, they were still going to get money out of every React video that was made. That was the point. They were basically franchising it. So even if you're defending that they were going after Alan, it wasn't altruism. They weren't heroic in any meaningful way. They were just covering their own asses. Anyway, enough about that. Enough about this in general. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what exactly went on, and how we can hopefully avoid it in future, though I'm sure there are some lawyers out there who like money, so we're going to see some stupid copyright claims coming up. So, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you disagree, but I don't know, it's hard to disagree with the facts.
The dark side. And the light.
Now, the Star Wars Lego games have always been the better of the Lego games.
Yeah, and you have such a wide base to incorporate sort of the family-friendly humor, and it actually works in this environment, and it really works in this trailer, I have to say. Against my better judgment, I found myself grinning and laughing when they wanted me to.
Yes, and it really points out the little nits and grits that people have had with the movie, with the lightsaber. They make fun of it. They do it in the good Lego humor sort of way.
Oh God, imagine if Lego decided to do their humor in the trolling internet way.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think there was a movie like that, a Lego movie. But hopefully it'll be a good game. Some of them recently haven't been as good, so we'll see. It'll probably just follow the story of the movie like the previous ones do. But
and then of course, 90% of people's gameplay experience with this game won't actually be going through the story. We'll just be running around the environment, just smashing anything and everything up, and if you have friends over, of course, just throwing them into bottomless pits.
Now, Shaney, we are sticklers for the Mario RPG subgenre,
Yep.
and after 3 long-awaited years, we finally have a new installment in the Mario RPG series called Mario and Luigi.
Paper Jam Bros.
Yes, and that is an absolute mouthful. So, as you'd expect, it is Mario RPG heaven here. So you've got Mario and Luigi, you control them simultaneously within an overworld environment, and also in battle as well, and they all have their respective buttons, and it's very kind of interactive Paper Mario-esque battling.
But you've also got the third character as well as Mario and Luigi. You've got Paper Mario.
So you control 3 characters all at the same time simultaneously. It's nuts. So the way it's a bit of a crossover game in terms of story. You have Mario and Luigi opening Pandora's box, which is basically the Paper Mario world where every single character in the game have their own paper counterparts. So Princess Peach, Bowser, Bowser Jr., Koopa Troopers, Goombas, even Mario himself all have their own counterparts. And not Luigi because that's the running gag.
Because he's always the gag. But I did love like the interactions between the two worlds and how everything kind of made sense and how they played with even just like the paper elements in the 3D world.
Yeah, the writing is still absolutely
the writing's still
superb.
really well done.
Yeah, it does kind of take running gags a little too far. Like, we're repeating the same joke over and over again, but it's still quite clever writing.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and that kind of like translates over to some of the way the battle systems are explained as well. Like there are previous Mario and Luigi games where the tutorial makes you just feel absolutely stupid. Like the game doesn't think too much of you with tutorials. It's like, are you sure you've got this down pat, this system down? And there's a lot to take in as well. The game constantly keeps introducing new mechanics to you, new ways to play, like the brother team attacks where they're all very interactive and you press certain buttons, and if you don't get the rhythm or the rhyme going on, you minimize damage, and you want to maximize as much damage as possible.
But the problem with the gameplay also is that it doesn't focus too much on the RPG elements, and that's where it kind of falls down. There's a lot of small mini games and other elements here and there, especially like the papercraft stuff. They focus way too much on the papercraft stuff. It's not even fun.
So the papercraft is like these kinds of weird mini game boss battles, and they don't feel like a traditional RPG. They feel a bit too out of place. Like in the purest sense of the word, Mario and Luigi Paper Jam Brothers feels like ADHD the game where the plot kind of takes a second fiddle, whereas the game just constantly keeps showing you, here's another mini game, after 2 battles, 2 traditional RPG battles, you're sitting there doing another mini game that seems to bear very little significance to the narrative and the overarching kind of story. So it just feels a bit weird in that sense where it just doesn't seem focused enough.
That said, a lot of the mini games I did enjoy. There was a lot of small fun ones, puzzle element ones. There was
Finding toads where you got to kind of think outside the box.
Yeah, even there's one that was actually a box and you have to actually get inside. It was just a lot of them really well done. Music's still really well done. Visually, it's the same, I guess.
Yeah, it's starting to age a bit, the engine. So with all that said and done, it doesn't hit the high strides of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, but it certainly doesn't hit the lowest, which is Partners in Time. So it reaches a nice little middle ground. We sort of recommend it.
So Tim, have you played a Mario and Luigi game in the past?
I've played Mario and all Luigi games.
That does not count at all, Tim.
Doesn't really count. But that said, this game does incorporate a lot of Paper Mario, which was a really good game.
Yeah, like as we mentioned in the review, like it's a fan favorite, and yet the potential, it doesn't seem to be like met to its full use here. Like out of all the gaming mashups that have ever existed, this is somewhere in the middle, the bottom.
Yeah, it tries to do like a lot of things at once. Just having a split focus is
It's Mario Party, but without the board game elements.
Yes, but as far as gaming mashups go, it's a good mix of the two. When rather than having a lot of different genres coming in the one game, like you can have Heroes of the Storm or Smash Brothers, which is all the same, different characters coming in from different genres to play the one genre, whereas this game is like multiple genres in one game.
I don't mind the wild and wacky, incongruous mashup though. Like Smash Brothers for Wii U is probably the best in that regard. Isn't they went deep into the bucket. They had Wii Fit Trainer as one of the fighters, and he is one of the better ones too. Yeah. Like compare that to the PlayStation All Stars, Battle Royale, and I think there's like 10 other parts of that title that I'm missing, but that game was completely unremarkable, as were matchups.
I still enjoyed it, but that said, we haven't continued playing it into the new year, or even probably a few months after the game.
I think that game came out around holidays. I think by Christmas it was just gathering dust there.
Yeah, it's a bit sad because the cross-play function worked really well and all that sort of stuff, so it's a bit sad, but ending it on that note, we do have
On
some
sad note.
cool stuff next week. We've got XCOM 2 coming up.
Yes, we also have a brand new segment, Crossing the Streams, where Jason and Liam watch various things for your pleasure and probably theirs as well.
Yes, so that's it for this week. Visit our website, www.newgameplus.tv.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV.
Follow Twitter and Instagram at NewGamePlusTV.
And follow us on Twitch and YouTube. Look up New Game Plus TV.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll see you guys next week.